Hi, and welcome. My name is Bridget Kimsey. I am a solar system ambassador with NASA JPL, and this presentation is positioned for those in Vermont experiencing the total solar eclipse, April 8th, 2024. But of course, anyone is welcome to view it, but it will be through that lens. So just a brief background. I am of Lenape and Irish descent. I am a member of the federally recognized Delaware Tribe of Indians out in both Oklahoma and Kansas. I have been working inside of global Indigenous methods and Western scientific methods for 30 years in the fields of healthcare, research, writing, policy, and security. My training runs along the spectrum of human health, biology, chemistry, engineering, and physics, and I work with different communities on various projects. I'm a published author, researcher, and consultant. I am a Master of Science degree candidate in the field of space studies and astronomy, and in the fall, I will be pursuing my PhD in artificial intelligence. My professional goals are to continue to research, write, and work on projects and finding different ways of knowing in science, creation, and the nature of reality. So always feel free to be in touch with any questions and if I can help in any way. So let's dive on in. What is a total solar eclipse? So taking a look at these two images, you see the tip of the moon's umbra reaches Earth's surface. So think of it like an umbrella, that shadow, that umbra that's created there. The shadow moves along the path of totality, from which a total solar eclipse is visible. The moon covers the sun, as we look at the other example, if we were standing on Earth, completely, and many unique effects appear. So we can see a diamond ring effect, the solar prominence, solar corona. So outside the path, only a partial eclipse is visible. So you can begin to see how unique many metrics and parameters have to be in place for this to occur. Here's another image of this solar eclipse where the sun, moon, and Earth line up with the moon in the middle. So you can definitely see, we think of our own Earth tilting and moving, and the moon around its orbit, and the sun, and just how they all have to align up just so. Okay, so this is the path of totality for April 8th, 2024. To take note, we're going from Central Time to Eastern Standard Time. So you'll see that jump. But it is going from west to east. And depending on just the dynamics of the alignment that we were just talking about, it might be a little longer in one area than another. So that is something I know that we are experiencing here in Vermont, or many people are thinking of St. Albans, which will just have a few more, even seconds or minutes, I forget which, of more of the totality of that total eclipse. Here we are again with just another image. There's some great images and work being done around the total solar eclipse event in Vermont. So many public radio stations will have something like this we see with Vermont Public. And if you play it, you need a website to play it. It will sort of take you along the path, how long it will be, what to expect, how dark it will be in that area where you're positioned. See, here's a chart of some solar eclipses from 2011 to 2020. I do get that a lot, like, how often has this occurred? When did this occur last? When will it happen again? So, 2 to 5 times a year, there might be total, annular, partial eclipse happening somewhere. And because there's so much water on Earth, it can be happening over water quite a bit. So we might not be very aware of it unless, of course, you're in a boat or you position yourself that way. There is a total solar eclipse about, I think it's once every 18 months on Earth. Again, we have over water, so it may not come up as something happening on the Earth quite as in the news or the media. So it takes about 375 years on average for a position, a spot on Earth, to have that same total solar eclipse come through. But it might not take the same path. It probably won't take the same actual path, as I'll show. So we might have, for example, in Burlington, Vermont, another total solar eclipse coming in that way. You know, I've seen this data quote of 375 years on average, but I also know that we have even highlighted on VPR a person in 1932 who remembers the last total solar eclipse in Vermont. And we will have another one in 2106. So yeah, I don't know, you know, it different, have to look closely at data sources but it does, you know, we had a partial here not that long ago, so interesting. Getting into that, solar eclipses in historical context, so many amazing cultures, and through time have different experiences of interfacing, I'll say, with the solar eclipse, whether that be through their own data sets, oral history, what have you. It's often something that is taken with quite seriousness as Earth-centric populations. It can be an omen, a sign. It can be something of importance for any number of things, but I'll dive into it. Okay, so a belief from China holds that an eclipse is caused by an invisible dragon eating the sun. The belief is that one on Earth creates a great commotion with drummers drumming and archers shooting arrows in the sky. The dragon is then frightened away and daylight returns. I thought this was interesting because we are technically in the year of the dragon. If you are looking at it from that angle. So here we have this total solar eclipse happening where we're located and the dragon is eating the sun. When this eclipse occurred 2134 BC, however, the two royal astronomers failed to predict the eclipse and the emperor became very angry because he was not prepared to scare the dragon away. So although daylight returned, the emperor ordered the two astronomers beheaded. Here's another example from medieval France. Emperor Louis, son of the great European ruler Charlemagne, died after observing the eclipse, May 5th, year 840. It was said that he was so confused by the 5 minutes of darkness during the eclipse that he died from fright. Here's a picture of Stonehenge, England. Some historians believe that the ancient builders of Stonehenge in England developed a method of predicting eclipses by observing the cycles of the moon. The structure of Stonehenge reveals that these ancient builders knew the actual motions of both the sun and the moon for most parts of the year. The sunrise can't even be seen from the center of the monument. But on the longest day of the year, June 21st, summer solstice, the rising sun appears behind one of the main stones, creating the illusion that it is balancing on the stone. And so looking in my own, being both a US citizen and a citizen of the Delaware tribe, the Lenape. Lenape have been here, I believe the current scientific records for going that way show anywhere between 15 to 17,000 years on Lenapehoking. So here we have some Turtle Islands, indigenous tribes and nations interfacing with the total solar eclipse. And these are just quotes that are just taken from very casual. So nothing here I'm sharing is something of sacredness or that is of importance that should not be shared. Just want to be clear about that. So in Hopi, they're talking about, the Hopi Sun clan. And during the last eclipse, our nieces and nephews were given their sacred Hopi names. So it's very significant to us, a time for ceremony. The Navajo culture, which has been recently in the news, regarding one of the missions in January going to the moon. An eclipse is about, it's not a spectacle. There's a solemnness to it, and it marks the end of a cycle and the power of when the moon and sun are in alignment. It's undergoing a rebirth, as seen as the moon and the sun embracing each other. And so, depending on which tribe you talk with, they might have a different, and their ecosystem, that culture has really evolved in, they might have a different experience or talk differently about it. Okay, so as I am positioned in Vermont and part of the Algonquin language system, I have chosen to align while respecting my own Delaware tribe needs. The Haudenosaunee nations, the six nations in the Iroquois League and the Iroquois Confederacy, and following a worker inside of there past the feather and this more communal of embracing for all of humanity. So I will speak of this for a moment. I hope that's okay because of the position of Vermont. The monumental 2024 full solar eclipse will align with each of the Haudenosaunee nations from New York State to Quebec. And just as an aside, the importance here is that these six tribes were fighting with each other pretty heavily. And when they saw the total solar eclipse, from what I understand, they laid down their arms. And this was when the beginning of the Iroquois League, the Great Confederacy. And so it has great value and importance of some of the troubles we are having on Turtle Island and throughout the world in how are we working as a community and how are we working with other communities and nations. So for this section, I'm following with the Haudenosaunee as a Lenape because we have a long history of supporting and mediating inside of the Iroquois League, taking on that role here. And hopefully, however you want to go forward with your experience of the eclipse, I think for all animals and human animals being another species here on the earth, it can be for some people a time of wonder and awe and a time to reflect. And I think that's okay too. So trusting oneself, what they need, what your culture needs, what you feel pulled to try out is always worth exploring. But let's talk about safety, of course, preparing for a solar eclipse. Glasses. So if you don't already have glasses, I feel like at least here in Vermont, we're better prepared than we were for the partial, where there were glasses, we're trying to find glasses. But here, I feel like there's well stocked. So please check in with your libraries, the school systems, governments, there's glasses somewhere, we'll say. And you can also order them. A lot of what you are looking for and what is trying to be highlighted here is you're going to be looking for a particular what's the right word? It's not a patent number. It's just that it's here we go. It meets the requirements of the ISO international standards. So there's that. And then there's also making sure there's no scratches on your glasses. So even a flicker of light can't come in. There are two things once you are done with the glasses, just as an aside, they can be donated to other countries that might have a total solar eclipse coming, and those glasses will be utilized. I don't know if you have NASA ones, if that is the case, but I believe for non-NASA ones that are made by an individual company, that might be something to look at if you're wanting to recycle them. Another idea is you can wrap them up and make sure that the lenses aren't getting scratched, and you can save it for another time or for posterity. I've heard some people trying to look at sunspots with them. Some have had success, some not so much. That's another idea. Let's try the next one. Oh, what I was going to say about the glasses, another idea too, is that especially for young kids. If you have them, oh, let's get the glasses on, have them go down to pick them up and put them on and then look up, especially with kids, they're like, oh, the sun, they want to look at the sun and then put the glasses on, but they're already looking at the sun. So to get away from that, put them someplace possibly down, so they have to put them on before they look up. Okay, other methods to take part in our total solar eclipse, you could make, I've heard this called different things. I just call it a pinhole box. You can see where the head goes, and then you can see where the paper taped to the inside, sunlight, aluminum foil with a pinhole. You want to be facing the paper, not facing the light coming in. Just, I mean, just a reminder. And then here is a colander or steamer. I think this looks like a steamer in this picture, but you can kind of see how it will, the shadows. I also love looking at the leaves and how the stars are interfacing with the eclipse as well. So there's many points in nature that one can experience the total solar eclipse without directly observing it if they don't have glasses or if they just don't want to. So here's another image, how to protect your eyes during the solar eclipse. Solar eclipses glasses must meet a worldwide standard known as ISO 12312-2. That could change in the coming years. So if you happen to be going someplace or another solar eclipse is coming to where you're located, you just want to make sure it's still in standard. Looking straight at the sun, whether or not there's an eclipse, can cause permanent damage to the retina. I've heard from doctors and nurses that, you know, you might not feel it right away, but in 6, 12, 24 hours, it can really come out as being a problem. So best not to risk it, even if in the moment you think, oh, it's not too big of a deal. The only safe way to directly view the sun during a solar eclipse is with a special solar filter or eclipse glasses. Do not use filters or glasses with any damage or scratches. Ordinary sunglasses or homemade filters are not safe for viewing the sun. Put the eclipse glasses on or hold the solar filter in front of your eyes before looking at the eclipse. Do not remove them until after you've turned away. Do not view the sun through an unfiltered camera, telescope, binoculars, or other similar device. Even if you are wearing eclipse glasses or holding a solar viewer at the same time. Consult with an expert if you want to use devices like these to view the sun. And again, looking straight at the sun, whether or not there's an eclipse, can cause permanent damage to the retina. I was going to say, just being cautious, your eyes. That's, you know, we get one pair, so treat them with care and love. Okay, all of a sudden the sun went to bed. It's time for us too, the animal said. So yes, there are some really interesting, if you're interested in peer-reviewed research studies, there's some really interesting research I started seeing from the 70s onward of what different researchers were finding, from cicadas to bulls to cows to bees to, you know, and they all have sort of different slightly different ways, you know, some sort of start to go to bed and go straight to sleep. Some might start to get very agitated because they haven't prepared and they need to prepare. I thought it was interesting with, I believe it's cicadas. They originally thought, oh, they're not singing because the sun has gone down and it's bedtime, but they actually weren't singing or calling because they had lost heat. They had 10% heat that they needed to be able to sing. That energy was gone. So, you know, something to think of also is it will get cooler during a total solar eclipse. That's always important to remember, especially in Vermont during mud season and spring, which can be tricky already. What else? Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the focus goes to obviously the alignment, but there's so many other wonderful things to explore in nature that are happening and how different animals react and different parts of nature react. there are, for those interested, there are some great NASA citizen science projects one can get hooked into to sort of track some features and things you see about the total solar eclipse this time around. So please let an SSA know, or just go on NASA's website if you'd like, and that information should be there. What happens if it's cloudy weather? Yes, in Vermont, cloudy weather, especially in the spring. But you never know. I have good hope. Our sun will poke through at least once a day. But if it does come down to that, please note that NASA is streaming. You can see it on YouTube, the NASA TV channel, whatever works. They'll be streaming live, so you can actually still participate in watching it go along its path. So I hope that's helpful. Again, my name is Bridget Kimsey, and if you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out or to your local SSA. Be well and take care.